What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinion. I am your host, Kyle Spencer, Factor, or KODX Factor, as some of y'all like to call me. And thank you guys so much for coming back and joining us. I know, every time I start the show off, I go from like a seated position to a standing position just to help elevate, get the voice up just a tad bit more. I know, like, you're looking at me weird, like, why does he always have to stand up at his desk or at his seat every time he goes for the intro of the show? I don't know. It helps me. I don't know. What's the proper terminology? I don't know. Whatever. That's just it's a habit. It's just what I do. It's kind of how I kind of kick things off, kick things rolling. As I usually get into like a standing position, and then I kind of let it all come on out. But thank you guys so much for coming back with us. I greatly appreciate the support we've been getting. Our subscription numbers on our YouTube channel jumped up a pretty decent amount from the past, I would say, 12 days since we started putting these shows out. One of the videos that's actually up on our YouTube channel is a playthrough that we were doing of Plague's Tale Requiem. And for some unknown reason, it got close to, I mean, it was itching on close to 1,000 views, and I don't even know what brought it on. I was trying to figure that out. Like, I actually went back and watched the episode, not watched the episode, but I watched the video, and I was like, did I say something that, and like, it made me question, did I say something to piss a group of people off, or piss somebody off that it started gaining traction that way? Like, I had to seriously think about it, and it wasn't. I don't know. The anomaly that everybody just clicked on and was watching through the gameplay. But again, thank you for watching us, checking us out. If you were new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. For all the new subscribers, thank you so much for coming in. I greatly appreciate it. And you do know we are always going to be here to help bring you the gaming world in our opinion, in our eyes. And that's just what it is, our opinion in our eyes. And just like last week's show, a lot of what was said is, you know, my opinion. It may not be the same opinion of everybody that contributes to the channel or has videos or voices up on the channel. It may not, but for me, it sure does. I mean, those are my opinions and my opinion only. Now, I may run the channel, and you may see it as that, but if you take offense to any of that, that's, good. I guess that's my intention for it. So to kind of draw some attention and some light to it, but it is what it is. But yeah, again, thank you all for coming back to the show. We missed out on last week's show just due to a lot of scheduling conflicts. I had a lot going on last week. And just like I said in that very first episode, it's going to be a try type thing with me, is to try to get these shows out on a weekly basis. I'm going to do everything I can to get them out on a weekly basis. If I can't, you're going to have to just please forgive me, because my scheduling is kind of all over the place with the businesses that we run. So I can only be in so many places at one time, doing so many things at one time, and some things take more precedent than others. And last week was just one of those weeks. But we are back here this week. Got a plethora of a decent show for you guys. We're going to go into our segment number 1, which is what we've been playing this week. Or I guess since I'm like the main host on here, is what I've been playing. Well, you've been playing too, so I'll cover kind of what you've been playing, because it falls in line with what I've been playing too. So we're going to do our segment number 1, which is going to be what we've been playing. We've got quite a few games on the docket for that. Lies of P, Mortal Kombat 1, Plague's Tale, Requiem, just the video flux. We'll kind of touch on that. Yeah, like I said, Mortal Kombat 1, Lies of P, we played a lot of. Did some more of Armor Core. And yeah, just a handful of other games. Segment number 2 is the What Grinds My Gear segment, or my personal take on certain things. This week, well, first of all, let me say this real quick before I touch on the topics for this week. Last episode, I talked about the Unity engine fiasco, and that video did circulate a little bit, and people have been watching and listening to it. And I don't know if anybody from that offices or from that company that work on that engine had heard anything, but apparently they did a major retract of what they were talking about. And I kind of knew this was coming. They did a major retract, major backpedaling for the news they put out there about the increase in price or the pricing model for their Unity engine going forward. They are revamping and reworking the entire system, which I'm glad they're doing that. They needed to do that, or it would have killed their business from the jump. I'm glad they did that. It still is going to touch people the wrong way. Don't take no sexual innuendos from that, but it is going to hit people the wrong way. Because, you still put the model out there initially. And it wasn't until you started hearing the rumblings from the developers and fans alike that you decided to have to do a retrack and a backpedal. More so, the thing that kind of stuck in people's craw was the going back on previous games that were built on that engine and charging for it. They are doing away with that entirely, which needed to be done, because I can see, and I'm sure that probably brought on some legal issues and some legal ramifications from that. I'm sure the developers kind of went to their legal departments and were talking and asking questions. It's like, is this legal? And I guess there is some legality issues involved with that. If there was nothing in the contract or the user agreements that this is something that could take place, and you went ahead and implemented one anyway, I can see the legal ramifications from that. And that might have a lot to do with them pulling that part of the model away from their pricing. I can kind of see that. And then they're also changing a lot of the other factors involved with it as well, due to the outcry from people and stuff like that. So I'm glad they kind of took kind of did like a turnaround. But looking at this week, our segment number 2, we are going to look at the Sony and Microsoft Ftc battle and how that is finally, I think it's cleared its last hurdle with the UK, I don't know if it's the UK government or whatever it is that looks at these contracts to decide whether they are compliant and whether this is not going to be some sort of a monopoly. How that kind of passed through, and now they are on the final leg, if you will, of getting this deal finally closed. And with this final approval, the Sony president, Jim Ryan, is stepping down from Sony. And I'm glad he's stepping down, rightfully so, but we'll get to that in our second segment. And also on the second half of segment number 2, we are going to look at, and I wasn't even going to really include this in this week's show. I wanted a little bit more time to kind of stew over it, but I was like, you know what? No, I'm ready to go. I saw a tweet from a buddy of mine, and Big Boss, you know exactly who you are if you're listening to the show right now. I saw this tweet, and I was like, this is actually pretty interesting. I like this. It is, well, I think on yours it was 25 games I narrowed mine down to 10. The top 10 games of your life that shape you, that help shape you into who you are. Maybe not so much into by personality, but by your gaming personality. Because, you know, there's two personalities here. There's your regular personality, there's your gaming personality. We all know that. Y'all met that one person, you know, you hear him online, he's a completely different person as opposed to when you meet him face to face or in person. We all know that. We all know those people. But help shape that gaming personality or your gaming likes to what you play nowadays. And I've carefully constructed my top 10 games for that, and I'll be glad to go over those in our second segment. Segment number 3 is Under Review, where we look at a game that we talked about a little bit last week in Crime Boss. Yeah, it's going to be a fucking fun review to do right there. And then segment number 4, we're going to go into our closing and look forward to our next program. But with that said, let's go ahead and get this show jumping off. Let's go ahead and get into our segment number 1, which is games we've been playing. So we're going to take a quick short break. Grab me a little cup of water because my throat is getting a little parched. As you can probably hear, my voice still cracking a little bit here and there. So I'm going to get some water. We're going to let this musical interlude take us in. And then when we come back, we're going to go into segment number 1, which is what we have been playing. So, Maestro, take us on out, please. Welcome on back. Welcome on back to our unpopular opinion. Don't ask me why I did that. It helped me ease into the transition. It helped me ease into the segment. Look, I don't care. I do and say what I'm going to say. I don't care. I don't care what people's opinions are of me. You know that, and of course you know that. But yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Anyhow, welcome on back, everybody. Thank you for coming back with us on segment number 1. What we have been playing this week. And it's actually been a handful of stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of got my hands on quite a few things. Some of the things might surprise you a little bit. Some of them may not be. Let me start by some of the quick things, because I'm going to touch on Lies of P, because that is a game I've been playing actually probably pretty heavy this past week. And I'll touch on that because that's going to probably be a little bit more at length than the other ones will be. But let me start off by saying I have been playing some more of NBA 2K24. I'm really, really starting to feel it's starting to become more Madden-ish, which sucks because I've loved the NBA franchise for so long. But it's starting to feel like it's starting to fall into that same trap that, Madden fell into. And I'm not here to review it yet. I don't know if we're gonna review it for next show. Maybe it's gonna be between that and Mortal Kombat 1 are gonna be the ones that we review. I'm thinking Mortal Kombat 1 is probably gonna be the one for next week, and then we're probably gonna do NBA 2K24 the week after that. And then I think we're doing Lies of P the week after that, because I'll be completely done with Lies of P by then. But I think it's starting to fall into that Madden trap where it seems like it's more and more of a refresh year over year, where you're getting the same thing except for just updated rosters and the user interface is changing a little bit. That's really the only things that have changed much about it. That and the player ratings, but you can do with an update. We've talked about that with a lot of the sports titles that have been out. The only sport that I feel on a year-to-year basis that is probably doing more than other franchises I can't say wrestling because the WWE franchise in 2K have been like really, really hit and miss. The game has been excellent some years, and then it sucked balls the years after that. Like this year's version was actually pretty decent. I like the WWE franchise from this year. Last year's sucked majorly, and I think the year before that sucked even worse than that. But this year, not so much. Now I don't know if they just change teams every other year or they give certain teams a couple years to work on it for that particular iteration. I don't know. But the one sport that I see a bit more consistency on with growth is FIFA. FIFA to me seems like it's on a year-to-year basis seems like it's getting more and more fine-tuned. It's getting better. And they're even introducing like other things involved with FIFA, other titles to go along with it. You know, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more things kind of involved that way. I mean, they have like the World Cup type stuff to go along with the game iterations that come out on a year-to-year basis. They had like a front office game, I think, came out one year as well. There's different iterations to go along with FIFA. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's other sports games out there that actually do it very, very well. MLB The Show is another one that kind of comes to mind that I think actually does a pretty decent job of kind of mixing it up sometimes. NBA used to be like that. Now it's starting to fall into the Madden trap. Madden has sucked for years. And now I heard they're getting ready to bring back NCAA football possibly next year. And I am afraid to see what... Now, I've wanted the college football game back for many years now. So ever since they lost the license and they no longer do them, I've been wanting the NCAA football games to come back for a long time. I'm glad to see they're coming back. But I fear they're going to fall into that same sports every year trap, unfortunately. And I don't see that getting fixed or better anytime soon unless some of them decide to kind of take that leap and do the subscription model that we recommended on our review when we did Madden last week. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and check out the video or the under review section for last week's or the last show that we did for Madden 24. So, I mean, that's all I'm really going to say about NBA 2K is it's starting to fall into that trap, or I hope it doesn't fall into that. The other, I mean, besides NBA, what we've been playing, we've kind of touched on a few others that we've been doing as well. Mortal Kombat 1 was one that we got in the office. We didn't play it when it first came in. I don't know why. I've always been a Mortal Kombat fan, have loved all the games, even up to this iteration of it. And this iteration of Mortal Kombat 1 kind of picks the story up right from where Mortal Kombat 11 left off. And I see what they're doing. It's almost like a reboot of the franchise, but it's not a reboot of the franchise, if that makes any sense. So they're going to reboot the franchise essentially. But they're not rebooting it in the way that you're going to go back and remember this is Mortal Kombat 1. If you played the story mode of Mortal Kombat 11, you saw that they were kind of entering into, I don't know if it's like a time warp or a kind of like what they did in the Marvel Cinematic Universe when they started doing like the time jumps from the different timelines. It's like they went back in the timeline where some of the characters have changed, but a lot of them are back to the way that you originally remember them from the first Mortal Kombat game, which I thought was actually really, really cool. Which I understand now, was that why they called it Mortal Kombat 1? Because I'm not going to spoil any of the story for you, but there was a time jump from Mortal Kombat 11 back to the beginning of where it all started. And that's where this game picks up at. And I think the storytelling has always been, as far as a fighting game franchise goes, has always been in Mortal Kombat's favor. It's always been in Mortal Kombat's court. They're the ones that have owned it. They've done the most with it. They've done the best with it. And that does not change here. I think they are still doing the best when it comes to the storytelling of a fighting franchise. They are playing it extremely well. The characters are just as awesome as I remember them. And they seem to be adding more and more elements to the game to where it doesn't feel like you're getting the same thing that Mortal Kombat 11 offered, but you're getting a refresh and you're getting some new elements that you haven't seen before. And for a game that's like, 12 to 14 games in now, I still don't know how the fuck that's possible. I mean, Ed Boon can be a fucking madman, but a genius all at the same time. I've had the pleasure of actually seeing Ed Boon before at a conference I went to. And I'm trying to remember what Mortal Kombat game was coming out that he was there to talk to us about. And the guy's a fucking madman. But you can tell, just when you talk with him, he loves what he does. He loves what he does. He wants to stay in that lane. He enjoys it. And there's nothing that nobody can say or do that's going to take that away from him. And you could tell that's with any franchise he gets his hands on. You could tell he wants to get back into the Injustice franchise. You could tell he wants to work on another Injustice game. And I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know what the licensing agreements look like between DC and NetherRealm Studios. I don't know. But as far as Mortal Kombat goes, you can tell that he looks at that franchise like a child. He loves it. He loves what he does. He loves the storytelling of it. He loves those characters. You can tell, and you can tell by the game when it comes out, and you can tell by this game. It's great. The tag team iterations that they brought into it this time around, it kind of brought in that feel of what Marvel vs. Capcom did at one point when you could select a couple of characters and you can tag team them in and out. But the characters are different from the main roster to the tag team partner roster. I thought that was actually pretty slick. It's just a well done game. The story is actually phenomenal. I'm only maybe 3-4 hours into the story mode of it right now, and it already is a phenomenal story. I'm looking forward to doing the review on this one. It's just been one of those games. Now, the game's not going to be for everybody. If you're not a fighting fan, obviously, it's probably not going to be in your wheelhouse. If you're not a fan of like the strong violence and gore, I don't know why you would check out a Mortal Kombat game to begin with. But yeah, it's good. And if you haven't played it yet or you're on the fence about it, there's no need to be. Get out there, check it out for yourself, play it. You'll enjoy it. If you love Mortal Kombat 11, you will love Mortal Kombat 1. Trust me on that. We've been playing a little bit more of Plague's Tale Requiem. Ever since that video on our YouTube channel hit that major flux of viewers that still baffles me right now because I don't understand where the viewership came from. Like I said in the very beginning of this episode, I went back and I listened to the entire episode or to the entire video, watched it to see if there was anything that I said that was off kilter. If there was anything that I said that I might have to issue an apology for, or if there was anything that I did that just was funny. There wasn't, though. And it still kind of baffles my mind why that video almost trickled up to close to 1,000 viewers. It's still going up right now as we speak. See, my voice came out there. I caught that one. As we speak, that video is still going up. I don't know where the video got shared to. I don't see any of that info. I wish somebody would tell me. Did somebody share it like on a website somewhere, or on their YouTube channel, or their social media account, or is there a TikTok out of something that I did that I don't know about, or that I said that I don't know about? Let me know. I would greatly appreciate that. But we decided to go back and play a little bit more Plague's Tale and see if any of the other videos that we put up from that game get that same sort of traction. So we'll find out. You know, I don't know. We will certainly find out if that's the case. But we plan on finishing off Plague's Tale Requiem. We are into, I think, chapter 7 now of that game. I don't know how many chapters there are in the game. I haven't looked that up. But we are on currently right now chapter 7, so we will look to finish that up here hopefully pretty soon. And the last game that we played, and this is the one that I really kind of wanted to get behind the mic on and talk about, is Liza P. Liza P, to some of y'all, probably you have no idea what Liza P is. You might have heard of it. Some of you may not have heard of it. Some of you don't even really know what Liza P even means or stands for. Well, let me give it to you kind of in a nutshell. First of all, I'm not here to review the game, so I'm not going to give it a score. But, Liza P is a retelling of a popular folk tale about a puppet maker, his puppet, and a cricket named Jiminy. Yes, I'm talking about the story of Pinocchio. Why some of my videos that involve Liza P that are up on our YouTube channel, I have titled "Oh Pinocchio," or you hear me talk about in some of the videos, it made my son laughing in the background, is Pinocchio. Yeah. It's a retelling, and you're put into a cyberpunk gothic world of Pinocchio. And all the popular folklore is here. The popular characters are here. All the way from Geppetto to Jiminy Cricket himself. They are all here. And I think it's, obviously the setting is fictional. But you can tell it's very, very UK based on the way that they are dressing it, the way that a lot of the Italian lingo is. It's very, very heavily driven that way. But this game is about as Soulsborne as you can possibly get right now. We said that about Neo many, many years ago, is that Neo was, one of those games that was very, very Souls-like, but offered something kind of different. It was kind of fresh, kind of gave it that refresh. And Neo, to me, is still one of my favorite franchise games to play. I love Neo 1. Neo 2 was phenomenal. I know that I'm hoping they put together like a Neo 3 here sometime soon. I'll need it. But Liza P is about as Soulsborne as you can possibly get. And what do I mean by Soulsborne, for those of you who don't know? The Dark Souls elements gameplay, Bloodborne elements gameplay universe. Sekiro, I don't even know how that kind of fits into the equation. But Liza P takes 3 game elements from those 3 games, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, and mixes all 3 into one game. And that's what brings us Liza P. It has got the atmosphere and the movement gameplay of Bloodborne. So for all of you fans out there who have been wanting another Bloodborne for so long, right now, until they give you Bloodborne 2, this is about as close as you're going to possibly get. This game is about as close as you're going to get to having Bloodborne 2 right now, unless they give you Bloodborne 2. That's the best possible way that I can put it to you. This gives you a lot of elements from Dark Souls 3, and it gives you some elements from Sekiro. Maybe not so much the game speed of Sekiro, but the way that the deflections and the blocking works in Sekiro is the elements they took away and they put into Liza P. Because Liza P is going to rely heavily on your parrying and blocking skills. And just like Bloodborne, your dodge skills are going to come into a factor as well. But one thing that I can say, even though it is the retelling of like a grim Pinocchio world, they don't chow this up in any way. This is certainly for the hardcore fans of those franchises. This gives you everything that you have wanted. For those of you that have the Bloodborne void in your heart right now, this game is directed solely for you. This gives you everything that you want and adds some awesome variations and awesome elements to the franchise that we have not seen before. Liza P is probably, I won't say it's my favorite game this year so far. I'm not going to go as far as saying that yet. I mean, like I said, I'm only maybe 5-6 hours into the game right now. There's still stuff that I'm still finding out about the game, so I can't go off into say that. But from the boss battles to the world that we're in, this is right up my freaking alley. This is right where my comfort zone is. The only thing that I don't like about Liza P that I kind of wish it did more of or took more away from Bloodborne is the world itself. It seemed like Bloodborne's interconnecting worlds and the different ways that you can go, the different paths you can take, seemed much, much bigger and open world than Liza P does. Liza P is much more linear. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not certain areas within that linear world that you can explore. Shortcuts that you can open up. And there are shortcuts in this game that are very, very obvious and prevalent. Like, you need to hit them. But it doesn't give you that world exploration that I kind of got out of Bloodborne. This game doesn't give you that. It's much more linear. Like, you have a set path that you have to go from the beginning of the start of the stage. Then you have your middle point. Sometimes you have your middle boss to deal with or mid boss to deal with. Then you have they call them stargazers in this game, but they're essentially like your lanterns or bonfires from the Soulsborne series. But they call them stargazers in this game. And they have them. The stargazers are pretty fairly spread apart. You know, I not once yet have I gotten to a point where I'm like, man, I need to go back to a stargazer. I don't see one on the horizon, or please give me a stargazer up here. There's always a stargazer pretty close to, or within a reasonable travel distance to where I'm going. Which could kind of make it a little bit easier. Now, that's one question I did get from some people. Is Liza P on par with the difficulty level of From Software's games? So far, I'm going to say yes, it is. Right now, it is probably on par with... I'm trying to think of like some of the bosses from Bloodborne, bosses from Dark Souls 2. It's kind of like on that path right now. It's not easy, but it's not overly like wanting to scream at the TV difficult just yet. But like I said, you still got to give me time because I'm only 6 hours into this game. I am on my 4th or 5th world now. Let's see, I beat 4 world bosses already, so I'm on my 5th. Okay. And this is a game you've been playing too. And I can kind of touch on this now because my own son is playing this game. And my son has not played, he's looking at me now. My son has not played any of the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro games before. This is his first game like that he's playing. And so far, he is on world number 4. He hasn't gotten to the world 4 boss yet, but he's in that world right now. And he's starting to get to, some of the irritation levels of it, where it's like, man, this is freaking difficult. But he goes back to it. It's got that hook. It hooks you. Like, you get to a certain point, and you're like, man, this game is getting on my fucking nerves, and you want to scream at the TV. But then you're like, I've got to best this. I got to get through this. I'm not going to let this fucking game get the best of me. I've heard you in your room. I'm out here watching a football game, and I hear you in your room back there screaming. Like, no! Yeah, I heard that. I think it probably even woke your mom up. I remember those times. Have I personally, as a veteran of the Soulsborne series, felt like that yet? No, I have not felt like that. Although that very first boss that you run into, the first world boss that you run into, I did reach that level of excitement because of just like finally beating him. Because I tried, like, just because I was still fresh with the mechanics. I was still trying to get used to some of the things that the game does. So that's probably part of the reason why. But once I started getting really, really used to it, and started getting used to the parry and the dodge timing, because that's going to take some freaking practice. This game gives you no window for a lot of that. I'm warning you guys about that now. As far as your dodging, your blocking, your parrying, that window, it's just can be atrocious sometimes, and you're feeling very, very aggravated. It's going to take you a couple bosses to kind of get used to it and get the timing down on some things. And you can improve that with some of the upgrades that the game offers. So I think that was by design. But like I said, there are some elements. It's like, man, it's going to get frustrating. And he's reached that point a few times. But it was cool to kind of see you come up to me after you beat that. Was it the second world boss? Was it the second or the third one? It was the fire one. That was the second one, right? Or was that was the third one? Well, whichever one it was. It was cool to see you come up to me and say, look, I beat that one on my first try. First playthrough, first try, I did it. And you're trying to explain to me and give me pointers on it. Well, like, look, as an I won't say an expert, but an experienced Soulsborne player, there's going to be elements of parts of this game you're like, okay, I can see this coming. I know what this is going to be up ahead here. I know around this corner there's got to be a guy sitting there waiting. The boss techniques of, like we did with Vort in Dark Souls 3, I think the very first boss that we dealt with in that game was like a freaking Vort, where you have to just kind of hover up underneath his fucking ball sack and just go to fucking town with whatever weapon you had until he starts to go into a frenzy, and then you got to back off. I just finished off a boss last night who was the first two-phase boss of that game, and I'm looking at you because you haven't gotten there yet, but this is going to be your first Soulsborne true test, is with that boss. But anyway, That's my opinion on Lies of P. I'm not going to give you a review on it yet. The review for that game is most certainly coming, so be on the lookout. But for those of you that are Soulsborne players, if you love Bloodborne as well, go check it out. If you have PlayStation, go out and buy it. It's worth your time and money, trust me. If you are on Xbox, go out and buy it. It's worth your time and money. Or if you want to try it all out and play through it, it's on Game Pass right now. It was on Game Pass day one. Okay? That is worth the download. Trust me. It's worth the download. Trust me. Give it a try. All right, so we're going to take us a small break. When we come back, we are going to get into segment number 2, which is that Grinds My Gears segment. I've already got it laid out of what I'm going to be talking about and going over, my opinions on a couple things. And then we'll go into segment 3 and 4 right after that. But, Maestro, take us on out for this break, please. And welcome on back, everybody, to our segment number 2 of what's really going to grind my gears. Now, last week was this week is probably not going to be as emotionally charged as last episode was. Last episode was pretty charged when it came to, just the emotions I had as a person who's worked on the development side when it came to the Unity engine. And then the fanboyish crap that was going on with the Starfield reviews and stuff like that. And the fanboy stuff is going to kind of tie into what I'm first going to talk about here today. And that is the Sony and Microsoft Ftc battle. And how the battle for acquiring Activision is getting ready to come to a close. From what I'm gathering, or from what I'm hearing, this deal is probably going to close within the next 2 weeks. And it'll be closed. It'll be done with. This will be all a distant memory. This deal should have closed back in June of this year. It should have already been done. Signed, sealed, delivered. It should have already been done. It was not. Solely, more importantly, because of a Sony pushback against the deal. And ever since the FTC ruled in favor of Microsoft and did not rule in favor of Sony, the Sony's has been taking a lot of backpedaling into what they were clearly and claiming they were fighting about. They didn't want Microsoft to have Activision. They felt it was going to create an unfair gaming environment as far as titles go and releases and stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong. Is this deal going to plateau? Not plateau, but is this going to thrust Microsoft into the atmosphere as far as game development goes? I think so. This deal is going to have a lot more to do to help Microsoft than a lot of people probably think it's going to. Now, they did come out and say, I think the major thing with Sony was because of Call of Duty being involved with this. The fear was Microsoft was going to start making Call of Duty exclusive to their console. And then when it was pretty evident that wasn't going to be the case, that they were going to keep the agreement in place with Sony so that way they can keep Call of Duty on their platform as well, then it became the whole thing about the Game Pass. Because we all know all their stuff's going to be on Game Pass. All the Call of Duty stuff is probably going to be day one on Game Pass release. and most of all the Activision franchises are going to start going that way as well, which for the consumer, us, is a great thing. Because I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm getting kind of over and done with the annualization of Call of Duty. Have been that way for many years, and now that I can just play them right off of Game Pass and not have to worry about having to purchase them every single year, I'm okay with. You know, how many other annual franchises does Activision Blizzard have? I don't really know. I think Call of Duty is like one of the main ones that comes to mind when we talk about annual franchises, and it's a what, $1 billion some odd maker every year. But Sony gets to keep it as part of some agreement, but they tried to push back on Microsoft on that, and then it was the whole Game Pass thing, and then now all of a sudden we're starting to see all these emails and court documents start to come out about the conversations that Microsoft was having internally, including some of the conversations that were going on with Sony and what was going on as well. And it seems so contradictory to me about some of the things that Sony was arguing that Sony has been doing for a plethora of years. Franchises that are only exclusive to your console, I'm sorry, but that's been a thing that's been in the gaming industry for many, many moons. Sony, you've been doing that for a long, long time now. There's still a lot of franchises that you have that sell millions. And then after Microsoft goes through with the acquisition of Bethesda and then Activision Blizzard, now you want to try to buy developers yourself to try to give you a leg up as well. So you went out and bought Bungie. And I don't think you bought Bungie for the Destiny exclusivity rights. Because we all know that that's not exclusive. That's on both consoles anyway. I think you went into it for the expertise that Bungie has when doing live service type games. Which means you may be looking at potential future franchises for yourself utilizing those same type of features. And you're going to need Bungie's help with that because they have found a way to put a positive spin on that. Destiny's been doing well for them for many years. And they seem to have gotten the live service feed right. And the same notion, I think Activision's kind of gotten that as well with the ever-growing expansions of like World of Warcraft. I mean, World of Warcraft is still a fucking thing. How it's still a thing, I do not know. But World of Warcraft is still a thing, people. It's about as live service as a live service can get. And I think Diablo, the new Diablo is starting to go that same exact way. This is what Diablo 4, right? Yeah, Diablo's starting to head that same way. They got like a battle pass system. I don't know if it's like a battle pass system, but they got seasons of content, which I think is going to work out beautifully for them because it almost gives you like an automatic refresh to the game every season, which I think a lot of fans probably like. But like a lot of the internal documents that were now being shown, like release windows, upcoming development stuff that they were working on. And I don't think it's right that these documents, including personal emails or in-house emails that specifically show off what they've got, like what their timetable of stuff that they're working on for like the next 8 to 10 years comes to light. Like we now know that they're looking at potentially like a 2028 release for another Xbox. I mean, I'm sure that's something they probably would have liked to talk about, but in their own time. The shit doesn't need to be made public. But then the email starts to get circulated that Sony had sent out there too, because this went on Sony too. Their in-house emails were also shown that they were trying to say that they were not really too concerned about Call of Duty. But I think they were more concerned about the cloud gaming aspect of what Game Pass has to offer, which is like the complete opposite of what they brought to the FCC case to begin with. They went in there with Call of Duty in mind. They mentioned it straight out the gate. That's what their fear was. I think it's now like they missed that fight when it came to Call of Duty, to where they're now talking about like the cloud gaming aspect of this. And should they really be worried about the cloud gaming? Yeah, I think so. I think Microsoft has, well, first of all, they have the grip on, like with Game Pass. I think they surpassed everybody, including PlayStation's poor excuse of what Game Pass is on Xbox. It's a horrible excuse for it. And Sony's always been playing catch up in that department. When anything that involves online capabilities, online like stuff, like subscription models, Game Pass, they have always, and there's nobody that can bat me on this, has always played second fiddle to that. Some of y'all can probably like, well, Microsoft was charging, but yeah, Sony was free. Sony's was fucking horrible. How many issues did you have with Sony's capabilities? As opposed to Microsoft. You paid for it. You get what you pay for. Sony's online integration was atrocious. And I think that their major hack to their system kind of should have told y'all that from the jump. But their online integration stuff was awful. Microsoft has always been spot on with it all the time. I don't think they've ever missed a beat. Regardless of whether you say, well, they charged for it, well, Sony didn't. Well, guess what? Sony's charging for it now. 3 different price models. They're still doing it today. Like, they're still doing it now. It's just that now Microsoft is doing the same thing, except for they have pretty much one price model. And you now get Game Pass to go along with it. And Game Pass, to me, is a much better value and bargain than anything that any of its competitors have out on the market to them today. Nothing comes close. And to the game lineup, and this is where all these deals and where Microsoft buying these studios is where it's going to come to hurt everybody else, is the fact that these games and these franchises are going to be available on Game Pass. And if they have a new release of that game, it's going to be available on day one. Whereas the other platforms, you're going to have to buy it. Sorry, but that's just the model that Microsoft built, have done extremely well with. And with Sony trying to say that there's a lot of developers that say they're not happy with the Game Pass model, go fuck yourself. Yeah, there are. I'm sure there's probably some that are like, yeah, I'm not too happy with it either. I'm not too thrilled with it. You know, some studios have stayed away from putting their games on Game Pass. A lot of studios have put their games on Game Pass or some sort of a model that's like Game Pass. They see the value in it. The value is much more than what people are leading you to believe, including those on Sony's camp when it comes to this. They're wanting you to believe that Game Pass is like Bobby Boucher's mom, like the devil. The Game Pass is the devil. No, it's not. It's really not at all. Not even fucking remotely close. It's so consumer friendly, and it's terrific for gamers on Xbox or PC alike. I don't see where you don't see the value in that is. I would love to hear your argument on that. And then shortly after, all this stuff finally gets put to bed and all these documents start to get released, guess who steps down from their role at Sony? The main one, the main fucking thorn in Microsoft's side, Jim Ryan, is fucking gone. Saya fucking Nara. I hope you hear it and I hope you listen. Saya fucking Nara. You did horrible. You did a horrible job. Like, I don't even think, one, you didn't make a big enough argument on Sony's behalf for this deal not to go through. You did a horrible job in that aspect. And then the excuses of the reason that you gave or the fight that you wanted to put up was a fight not even fucking worth having. I still don't understand it. And then you still get left with fucking breadcrumbs after the fact. And then egg on your face after the fact of that. Saya fucking Nara. You need somebody else in this place that knows what the fuck they're doing. He's been putting a black eye on fucking Sony for a little while now. It is time to go a different route. So for you Sony fans out there, first of all, I fucking hate fanboys. If like you're a Sony and only Sony fan, I fucking hate you. If you're a Microsoft and only a Microsoft fan, fuck Sony or Nintendo, I hate you. If you're like a Nintendo only, fuck Sony, Microsoft, I hate you. If you're a PC not console, I hate you. Why can't you just be a fucking gamer? Who gives a fuck what platform you play on? Who gives a fuck who makes it? If a game is fun, fucking play it. If you can't play it because of the platform it's on, well, get the fucking platform if you really want to fucking play it. Do you think back in the day when most games were on PC before consoles became what they are today, that people were bitching and moaning, like, man, I need to have the high-end PC to play it? What did they do? They went out there and upgraded their PC so they could fucking play all that shit. It's the same fucking thing. Stop being a fucking dickhead and a bitch about it. Go fucking buy the platform it's on to fucking play it if you want to play it. If you don't want to do that, then don't fucking play it. Keep your fucking mouth shut. This did get emotionally charged there for a second, didn't it? Yeah, it did. I caught myself on that one. Oh man. All right, so let's go into the second part of this segment. All right, so hopefully what we get into now is going to be a little less emotionally charged. This is going to be a little bit more of a happy part of the segment. But we're going to look at now, Big Boss, I saw your tweet where you had 25 games that shape who you are as a gamer, as a person, your gaming personality. And I saw your top 25 list. Pretty impressive list, I must say. I'm not going to go through it and read it here, but please go follow Big Boss on Twitter or Twitch, Big Boss Senpai. And you can check out his tweet there. Here's mine. And I condensed mine from a 25 list to a 10. And I'll kind of go into how each one kind of played a role into developing factor into the fine gentleman that he is today. Some of these games may surprise you, those of you who know me personally. Some of them may not. But, and these are in no particular chronological order. So if I name a game first, it doesn't mean it's number one on my list. These are in no particular order. The Legend of Zelda. Now, I know that can mean, okay, well, what's Zelda? You know, are we talking Breath of the Wild? Are we talking about the original Legend of Zelda? Are we talking about Link's Awakening, Link to the Past, yada, yada, yada. Look, I know there are 24 different type of Zelda games out there. What I'm talking about is the original NES gold cartridge Legend of Zelda game that I remember from my childhood playing that game on a regular basis, next to Mario. But I seem to play Legend of Zelda a bit more than I played Mario. The Legend of Zelda was always one of my go-to games as a kid when I was growing up. I used to sit in the room, had that controller in my hand, and I would hear just that theme music going. Ding! You know what music I'm fucking talking about. That theme music and like just the way that game was for the time is always going to hold a special place in my heart. I spent many days, many months, years playing that game. I have wore out so many cartridges of that game. I wish I still had my original gold cartridge game of that. I wish I still had it. I don't anymore. But if I'm feeling nostalgic and I went like on eBay or something like that, maybe that'll come up at one point. But for right now, I mean, I've played it on emulators. I've played it. I think I even have it like on the NES Classic. But it's just, to me, it doesn't feel the same as that nostalgia feeling that I had sitting at home with that controller, the dirty ass controllers. I played it so damn much, like over and over and over again. Legend of Zelda is always going to have that special place in my heart. Number 2, for those of you who know me, going to know this game is definitely going to get that mention. Gears of War. No, I don't mean Gears of War 2. I don't mean Gears of War 3. I definitely don't fucking mean Gears of War Judgment. Gears 4, Gears 5, I don't mean. I'm talking about the original, the Mac Daddy of them all, the Gears of War, the Xbox 360 version of that game. Oh my Lord. This game was one that I played on a nightly basis. Every night I would come home from work. Sometimes I wouldn't get home from work until midnight. Other times I wouldn't get home from work until like 10 p.m. The first thing I did was I would come home, take a quick 10-minute shower, and then jump my ass onto the fucking game. Sometimes I wouldn't even have to worry about putting fucking all the way clothes on. I'd have some boxer shorts on, and I would sit in my fucking chair, boot up the 360, and by that point, most of my friends had jobs like they were off at like 5 or 6 p.m. or home by 8 o'clock. Me, I was always the one that didn't get home until like super fucking late. So that's what like, and here's a funny story. If any of you guys are listening that know this story, God bless you. But here's a funny story about this. We played Gears so much and played together as a team and as a unit so much. We played tournaments together. We played every single night together. There was a group of probably 4 or 5 of us, maybe more than that played together on a nightly basis. We knew how each other moved. We knew how each other thought. We knew what each other was going to do on every map that we played multiplayer on. And I'm just talking about multiplayer. I'm not going to, I hadn't even gotten into the story mode yet. Story was fucking phenomenal. I'm just talking about multiplayer. But we all knew each other's motives whatever map came up. When we played against each other, we knew what each other was going to do. It was just a matter of, like, now can you stop it? We played so much. At that time in my life, I was a manager at Blockbuster Video. I think it was I at Blockbuster at the time? Yes, I was at Blockbuster at the time. I had been about a year and a half into working at Blockbuster Video at the time. Yes, Blockbuster Video was still a thing then. And a couple of my friends that we played on a nightly basis with together were managers at the local GameStop in town. And here's how much Gears meant to us as friends, as a team, as just fans of the game, here's how much this game meant to us. They wanted to pull me out of Blockbuster Video to work at GameStop with them, so that way I could get off at a reasonable hour to play Gears at night with everybody. Working at Blockbuster Video, there's some nights I wouldn't get home until like 12, 12:30. I wouldn't get off until 11, 12 o'clock every single night because, Blockbuster Video used to stay up to open till midnight on a lot of nights. Especially on weekends, it was open up till midnight or sometimes past midnight. On weekdays, I think it was closing at like 10 or 11, which means I didn't get home until, like, if it closed at 10, I wasn't getting home until like 11. Wasn't ready to play until then. By that point, everybody had already been playing for 3 or 4 hours before I even got there. Okay? Now, I was dating at the time. Me and my wife now, we were dating at the time. So she knows about my gaming schedule around this period of time. Yeah, she can attune to everything that I'm saying and I'm speaking about here. They wanted to pull me from Blockbuster Video to work at GameStop with them so I can get off in a reasonable hour to play Gears with them. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the money to work out the way that we couldn't get it to work out right away anyhow. Couldn't get it to work out money-wise because I was needing at least a management role because of where I was previously before and where I was currently at now. And then an opportunity presented itself for me to jump right into management over at GameStop. And they were like, look, this is be perfect. Now we can get you on Gears at a reasonable hour if you're willing to accept this job. And I was accepted the job right then and there. And this is probably like a good 2-month process for me anyhow. Just to try to get everything to kind of match out and even out. That was one of the main reasons why. That, and I'll admit I was a pretty damn good manager too. But that was one of the founding reasons as to why I made the transition over to GameStop. And I stayed with GameStop for, how many years was it? Like almost 7? I don't even know how long it was, but I was there for quite a while. So that's my story of Gears. Gears is always going to have that place to where I'm always going to be competitive with that game. Even still today, like I'll be happy to jump into like a multiplayer game and see if any of my old techniques still work or hold true today. The next game on my list is going to be Halo. It's going to be kind of like a tie between Halo 1 and Halo 2. Because both of those games hold something special to me. Halo 1, just due to the fact that, it was when I got back into gaming heavy, like hardcore, and into console gaming hardcore, Halo was the first game that I got. When I first bought one of the Xboxes when they first came out, Halo was the first game. I think for most gamers, if they got an Xbox, Halo was the first game that they got. Sometimes it was the only game that they got for quite a while. Halo was one of those games that introduced me to LAN gaming, and I played on PC quite a bit. I used to LAN party, every so often with games like, with like Warcraft, StarCraft, Unreal Tournament, stuff like that. I did some LANing with computers. But being able to LAN with computers wasn't as easy as it was with the Xbox, just due to the sheer size of having to haul around my freaking computer, because my computer was freaking big. And I didn't feel like hauling that thing around in my car. But Halo was one of those games that got me into like the LAN parties and LAN gaming pretty hardcore. I remember long nights of like ordering 10 to 12 pizzas, lots of freaking soda and energy drink, Balls energy drinks. That's where that became like a prevalent to me. And I've got one here in our house, in here right now. I'm looking at it. A bottle of Balls. If you don't know what Balls is, go look it up. BAWLS. They're expensive. They're expensive as shit. but it's like a good fuck. It was a good fucking energy drink, and we used to drink those shits during like Halo LAN parties and eat shit tons of fucking pizza. Be there for over 24 hours, fucking just straight gaming. Cables running from room to room, upstairs to downstairs. TVs upon TVs. People tripping over fucking shit. I remember all that shit. It was like my early college days. And then of course Halo 2 came along and Xbox Live was pretty prevalent at this point, and online gaming started to become a major thing. And Halo 2 was that game. It held us for so fucking long. I mean, I'm sure everybody here that if you played Halo or a hardcore gamer, especially around that time, you have your own stories and your memories of Halo 1 or Halo 2. I certainly did. One of the next games on my list is Splinter Cell. I'll say Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow more particularly. Because Splinter Cell, I mean, I love the original Splinter Cell, don't get me wrong. But Pandora Tomorrow was the one that introduced the multiplayer aspect to it. And of course, we're going to go right back into the multiplayer. There was a few of us that played Halo together all the time that we got into Splinter Cell. And Splinter Cell, very, very heavy, that we used to play religiously online with Splinter Cell. I just remember the many days of sneaking around, trying not to get spotted or killed. Having certain areas that you'd go into, knowing you couldn't be seen, and then some that you know you could be seen. You know, the heartbeat, like the high intensity heartbeats and the fear factor of when you're playing as one of the operatives and you're hunting down the spies. That's like that feeling you get of breaking that neck and sending them back to the room. You know, that's always going to have that. Like Pandora Tomorrow is always going to have that spot. I want them to bring Splinter Cell back out. I heard they're working on one. I think it's going to be like a reboot. But I heard they're working on Splinter Cell. They need to bring that game back out. I miss that franchise so much. That franchise is always held in high regard to me. I've got every game of the Splinter Cell franchise. It's due for another one. It's been away for far too long and needs to come back. One of the next games on my list is a game that I played on the Xbox. I think it was it the original Xbox or was it the 360? It was Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. I think this is on 360. And the reason why this game means so much to me, personally, was this was the first game that I played when I got Xbox Live for the first time. I bought Xbox Live. I signed up, got the headset, and one of the games I got to play was Graw. And there was a couple guys I met that we played online together on Graw, and anytime that we popped up online, we were always jumping into each other's games and playing Graw for hours upon hours. So Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter is always going to have that special place in my heart. The next game on my list is the Dark Souls. Now, those of you that know me pretty well know this game is going to be on there. Now, is there a Dark Souls game in particular? Probably Dark Souls 3. I mean, I love Dark Souls 1, played through it, beat it. I think actually twice. Dark Souls 2, I only played through and beat once, but I did complete it, all bosses. Dark Souls 3 is one of those games that I think we probably played through together as a group at least 30 times. And not just going through the motions. I mean, actually trying to challenge ourselves. Bronx, if you're listening, I know you remember. You remember when we went to go fight what's his name? Dragon Sail Armor? Or the dude from I know you remember. Right before you get to the library. Dragon Armor, I think is what his name is, or something like that. Where we fought him by using only Pestilent Mist. No other weapons, just Pestilent Mist. And we did it. We'd find like just unique challenges to try to challenge ourselves, besides us just fighting each other. We used to try to find ways to kind of challenge ourselves to fight some of these bosses, even to the point of like starting new games on different consoles of the same game. Blue, I know you can attest to this there, buddy. How many times have you bought Dark Souls 3 over? You own it, what, on every single platform that's out there now that it's available on? We have played through Dark Souls 3 I don't know how many times. We still go back to that game every once in a while. And we don't just go back to it just to go back to it. We go back to it to fucking complete it. We'll beat the shit out of that game again and again. Some of these bosses now we know down to a fucking T. And some of those bosses, fucking Midir, we will never, ever get down pat. We have our inside jokes with a lot of these bosses. We have our inside jokes with a lot of the NPCs in that game. But Dark Souls, especially Dark Souls 3, is always going to have that special place that kind of shaped me into the gamer I am. Now I love playing games that are like that play in that kind of art style, that play in those kind of gameplay mechanics. The Soulsborne. That's why I like Liza P. I fucking love Liza P right now. I touched on that earlier in the show. The next game on my list is going to be one that's probably going to surprise some, but World of Warcraft is on that list. I played World of Warcraft pretty heavy early on. And it was one of those games that, especially like years ago, I'd be heavily involved on World of Warcraft, and then I'd be off of it for a while. And then I'd come back to it, then I'd be off of it again for a while. Because I know it was one of those games that I could look at the clock when I first sat down to start playing, and then next thing you know, I look at the clock and 5-6 hours have gone by, and I didn't even fucking realize 5 or 6 hours have gone by. Thankfully, I never got into that boat where my wife at the time, or I say my wife at the time, my wife, who I'm still married to now, my wife then at that point, I don't think she ever got to the point where she was like severely angry with me if I played WoW like that. At Gear she did, but WoW I don't think she ever really got to that point. Because I was actually kind of able to control myself, unlike some of my other friends that I played with on that game. The next game on that list is Resident Evil 2. No, I'm not talking about the remake, even though I fucking love the remake. I am talking about the original on the PlayStation. Not PS2, not PS3, the original PlayStation. I used to go across the street to our neighbor's house who had a PlayStation. We didn't have a PlayStation at that time. We had, I think, the Sega Genesis, I think, was up to that point where we didn't have a PlayStation. Our neighbor did. And he had Resident Evil 2. And I used to go over there every day just to play that game. I know sometimes he was like, man, all you fucking do is come over here just to fucking play Resident Evil? Yeah. Yeah, I do. You got a PlayStation? I don't. I want to fucking play Resident Evil. I fucking love Resident Evil. I can't count how many times I beat Resident Evil. Especially at his house. You know, I finally got to the point where we got a PlayStation and I played Resident Evil 2 myself at our house. Loved every minute of it. Still, even to this day, I still have fond memories of Resident Evil. One of the first games, like one of the first horror-based games that I won't say gave me nightmares, but like some of the sound effects, like I can still hear in my head today. Like, especially like with the zombie movements, the way that the zombies kind of, Like, there's just certain elements of that game that if you grew up with that, it probably still ring true to your ear today. Let's see, two more left on this list. Half-Life 2 is on that list for me. I played this on when I first got into like fully like really upgrading my PC, and I got it upgraded to where I can play like the Doom remake, not the one that just not the one that came out a few years ago, but like Doom 4. And then I got Half-Life 2 around that same time. And I remember playing Half-Life 2 all the time. Religiously, I'd be on Half-Life 2. I used to sit at my computer at my desk, and I would just sit there and play Half-Life 2 all day long. And this kind of ties into one of my last games, another PC game that I played all the time. Actually, me and my brother played it all the time. Played against each other, played with each other quite a bit, was Counter-Strike. That's going to be one of those games that I'm always going to remember, especially from when I played heavy on PC, was the many hours that I spent on Counter-Strike. That's where I kind of got my shooting fix, long before Halo, long before all that. Like I was heavy into Counter-Strike. Now, I would never say that I was one of the best at Counter-Strike, because I wasn't. But I was always pretty decent at it. I got to the point where I could actually kind of go in and hold my own. Like, I would go in and play, like, a lot of times when my brother wasn't playing, I could go on there and play and have no issues at all. Like, even still, like, Counter-Strike is still available on platforms today. I still kind of go back and play it every once in a while. I now have it on Steam Deck. I don't think there's ever going to be a platform that Counter-Strike comes on that I'm not going to have either downloaded or installed somewhere. I'm going to have access to it. And I think that's what a lot of these games on these lists are intended to do. Like, no matter what platform you get, would you still have these games installed and playable? I'm looking at it now, like the original Legend of Zelda. I mean, if I still had an NES with the cartridge, yes, of course I would. Gears of War, I still have installed on my Xbox in the bedroom. I have installed on our game trailer as like the business that we run. I have it installed on our game trailer. And I'm not talking about the remaster or remake. I am talking about the original. I have downloaded. Halo. I have the Master Chief Collection on every Xbox that I own. Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow. I have an original Xbox. I still have, out of all the Splinter Cell games, I still have the original Splinter Cell, Pandora Tomorrow, and Chaos Theory. Like, and I remember I sold and got rid of a lot of the original Xbox games that I had, but I still have those three. And I will never ever let those go. Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. I still have it. Box copy and all. The same box copy that I had when I got into the Xbox 360 landscape. Dark Souls. I have Dark Souls on multiple platforms. Dark Souls 3 I have installed on multiple platforms. On my PlayStation and on my Xbox, I have it installed right now. World of Warcraft, I have installed on the Mac that I'm recording on right now. Resident Evil 2, I have the emulator for it. I don't have the original PlayStation anymore, but I do have the emulator. As a matter of fact, I still got the original Resident Evil 2 physical disc for the PlayStation 1 in my collection right now. Half-Life 2, I still have the PC disc that I used to play on my PC. I still have. And Counter-Strike, I have installed on my Xbox. I have it installed on my Steam Deck. Because yes, Counter-Strike did come out on the Xbox as well. Whew. Well, it was a nice old trip down memory lane, especially for a lot of the games that I played growing up and the ones that kind of shaped me into the gamer that I am today. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. What are your top 10 games that you've ever played in your life that helped mold or shape the gamer or person that you are today? I would love to know everybody's feedback on that. So, while you try to gather those thoughts, we're going to take this quick break, this quick musical interlude. And when we come back, we're going to go into Under Review, where we're going to look at fucking atrocity that is Crime Boss. We'll be right back. Welcome on back, everybody, and welcome to a new, well, I guess not a new segment, but the segment of Under Review, where we look at all the latest and greatest games across all of the major consoles and platforms. This week, we are going to be looking at 505 Games, Crime Boss Rockay City, from a studio called In-Game Studios. Now, you guys might have heard me talk about this game a week ago on our under review. No, we didn't do like an under review segment. We did the unpopular opinion of it. It was one of the games we've been playing, but I told you we're going to be doing a review on it. Now, I'm going to keep this kind of review short, sweet, and to the point. Crime Boss is a bad game. I'm going to put it out there like that. I'm going to start it off here by to say this. It's a bad game. Is it a atrocious game? No. Is it like one of the worst games that's out there? No. Is it worth your time? Maybe. Is it worth the money that it's out there for? Because I think this game came out at what, $39.99 price tag. I still think that's too much. I think the sweet spot for this game is probably around $20. You might have been able to get away with $29.99, but I think $20 is probably the sweet spot for this game. This is the game that the Xbox showed off at one of its showcases. I don't remember what showcase it was, but I think it was like a year or two ago. Where it was kind of like, they kind of presented it like a Grand Theft Auto type of game. I think that's how they kind of presented it. Like they had like the all-star cast of like Michael Madsen, Chuck Norris, Danny Trejo, Michael Rooker, Kim Basinger, Danny Glover, Damien Portier, and Vanilla Ice. That's the cast of actors that are in this game. And I will start by saying this. How can you have a cast of this caliber with some of the worst writing in video games? Some of the worst writing for video games. With this cast, I would have thought with just Michael Madsen, possibly Danny Trejo, Michael Rooker, and even maybe Danny Glover and Kim Basinger by themselves should have been enough. I mean, you got Chuck Norris in there for fuck's sake. Like, this should have been like a no-brainer, especially if you did do it in the gameplay style of like what Saints Row was. I'm talking about the original Saints Row, not the piece of shit that came out not too long ago. But I'm talking about the original Saints Row that came out on Xbox 360. or a Grand Theft Auto, if you kind of kept it like in that play style, I think it could have been done so much better. But they did this in the play style of Payday, where it's mission-based elements to it. You go to a map, you select a mission, you get money based on what you collect out there. So they might have like robbing missions where you got to go rob a convenience store. How much money you pull away with is how much you use to build your empire. This has all been done before. Payday has done this probably the best. Crime Boss seems like it just kind of just wanted to follow suit in what Payday did. And Payday just had a new one come out not too long ago. Like Payday 3 just came out and puts this to absolute fucking shame. I don't understand the story elements to this. The story is comedic at best. The voice acting for the all-star cast that they have is atrocious. The voice acting, the dialogue, I don't think it's so much the voice acting itself, because there's only so much that the actors and actresses can do with what's given to them. But the dialogue is a fucking abysmal. The story is terrible. The play style, the play structure is terrible. Like, even if they decided to go the Payday route, which they certainly did, it could have been done so much better with like a smooth storytelling elements to it, transitionals. You feel like you really don't play any of the story at all. You just feel like you play like one of the fucking foot soldiers looking in. But the main thing is they put you in the main character, Michael Madsen's role. Like, that's the character you play as. But how can that be when you feel like one of the outsiders looking in? This game was poorly done. Graphic-wise, I don't think it's that bad. I like the art style to it. I'll never say that was like that's one of the hindrances of it, because it's not. But I think just like the other elements, like it's supposed to be a game that's I think they should be trying to take it so seriously, but you can't, especially with some of the comedic elements that they kind of have. I mean, you got Chuck Norris as like the main deputy that's hunting these crime bosses down. I mean, I get that, but it's making a comedy out of it. And I don't know if that's what they were going for. I don't think that's what they were going for, but that's what they got. I mean, the sound effects, yeah, okay. I mean, I can go nitpicky and try to pick this game apart for you and go, does the sound effects work for this? Does the music work for this? Does the elements work for this? Does the gameplay work with this? Does it fit this play style? Does it look like... Fuck all that. Is the game good or is it not? This game sucks. Alright, just point blank. This game sucks. It's a game that I played many hours in already, and I fucking... If I look at... Let me look at two games that I'm playing currently right now. I'm looking at like Lies of P and how much fun I'm having with that gameplay experience right now. Can I match that level of fun that I have with that game with the level of fun that I have with Crime Boss? Not even fucking close. And don't you dare be one of the ones. Because you heard my argument last week and say, why would you give any game for somebody to review that doesn't like this particular game style? I love this particular game style. I love the Paydays. I love the Grand Theft Autos. I love these type of games. This is just not one of them. If you don't fucking believe me, go out there and try it for yourself. It launched on PC long before it came out to the physical release of it. Like the digital versions came out long before. I think they came out like at the beginning of the summer. We just got the physical release for console. That should probably fucking tell you something. It's not that good. So for me to have to score this game, I'm going to give this game a fucking 3. A 3. It's bad. The only reason I'm going to give this game any fucking remote points at all is I fucking like Michael Rooker. I think he's a great actor. I think he's a great voice talent. And with the shitty dialogue that he's given, he actually makes the best of it. Michael Madsen's, I mean, I love him as an actor. He was not given much of fucking anything to deal with this game, and his dialogue and everything was fucking atrocious. And the fact that Danny Trejo's in this game. I love fucking Tony Trejo. Or Danny Trejo. I say Tony? I mean Danny. Anyhow, that's our under review for Crime Boss, Rockay City. Rockay City? We'll be right back. And thank you so much for coming back with us. We took us a quick short break to get us something to drink. We're actually gonna get ready for lunch here too. So we're getting ready to close out this show. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We greatly appreciate it. Let's take a look at what we got coming on our next episode. So our next episode, we're going to be looking at a handful of games that are coming out. Again, some more stuff coming out. It seems like October is going to be one of those months where we're going to get game after game and stuff to talk about. Seems like on a never-ending basis. We got Assassin's Creed Mirage. I think it's due. I think it's coming in sometime today, if I'm not mistaken. Reviews have started going out already for Spider-Man 2. That game is on the horizon, I think, next week. I have to double check my release calendar, but I know there's a bunch of stuff coming out. But the big one is going to be Assassin's Creed Mirage. And we're going to talk about, in the Grinds My Gear segment, we are going to look at annualized game releases. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I think you guys probably already know my feelings about that and where that's going to be directed towards. But there are some other games that are coming out, and some games that used to be annualized that are no longer annualized. We're going to look at that. I think it's going to be in the Grinds My Gear segment coming next week. We're going to take a look at some of the other new stuff that's going on just to see if there's anything coming out that's going to give us a flux of emotion as some of the other ones have. But we're going to take a look at that. So like I said, Assassin's Creed is going to be a big one. We're still going to be trying to finish off Mortal Kombat 1. We're going to try to finish off Lies of P. I am steady pushing through that game. And I'm going to continue to do that. I love that game. We're going to steady try to finish off Plague's Tale Requiem. I want to finish that game off as well. That's one of the games that I have on my backlog. And I'm looking to try to finish that and capitalize on the amount of views that particular game and videos are getting on the YouTube channel. And the subscription numbers we are gaining from that video and the podcast that's going up. So make sure if you like what you're hearing, just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. We are working on getting this podcast on multiple different avenues for you guys, so you can be able to check out this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast from. Right now, it's going to be mainly on YouTube. That's where we're going to do a lot of our business on. It's going to be YouTube. A lot of the gameplays are still going to be going through YouTube. We still plan on streaming on Twitch considerably quite a bit as well. I'm probably going to be on there a little bit later on today. Probably going to do some Lies of P videos on there, but we'll see. So, with that said, everybody, Thank you guys so much for coming out. We look forward to seeing you guys come along with us next week as well. And until then, I am KODX Factor, Spencer, whatever you want to call me. And until then, we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much. Game on, everybody.